one of the things that I've said on this radio show is that I believe the most important race in this election cycle is the Illinois Supreme Court. And one of the reasons why I believe that is because the Republicans have not had the Illinois Supreme Court since 1964. And if you look at everything that has happened, everything that has occurred, the maps, pensions, everything has stopped and stalled at the Illinois Supreme Court.
John, thank you for having me, buddy. Always great to be with you.
Yeah. So, Mark, I mean, I look at, some of the things you've done as, you were the gang crime bureau chief, you were a senior prosecutor, you taught constitutional law, you've been a sheriff. I think that more than qualifies Mark Curran to be the next Illinois Supreme Court out of the 2nd District. Talk to us. Who is Mark Curran, and how important is it that you win this Supreme Court seat?
Well, I think that, it's the choice is me, who's going to uphold your liberty and understands the Constitution and understands that the rights belong to the people, versus my opponent, who's essentially Cook County transplant, who's given a lot of money to Ed Burke, who's, staunchly embraced all the liberal causes. And so it's really a real big difference. But, John, I just wanted to say, you're exactly right about the election. So I'll give you a quick story if you want.
Yeah, go ahead.
With regards to what transpired. So I know you're a person of faith. I
Yes.
really didn't aspire to be a Supreme Court justice. I absolutely did not. But I saw what the establishment was doing, and I saw how they were circling the wagons for one candidate. And, I thought a lot of it was, Masonic driven. He's in the Masons. And I just didn't like that. And
Yeah.
I felt prompted to run. And I ran, and I raised no money. He had $1 million, $200,000 from Ken Griffin to spend to get me. I had $10,000. I didn't have a single sign. I didn't have a penny for advertising. I had everything going against me. And 3 weeks before the election, they spent tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars to try to keep us off the ballot. We weren't on the ballot 3 weeks before the election.
And Mark,
So
just let me
never would have been able to.
let me interrupt you right there. I thought you
Yeah.
were still off the ballot. I'm telling you, I was. I thought you were still off the ballot, and then
Yeah.
I look and I see your name there, and you're winning. I was like, what the heck is happening
Yeah.
here? And you
Well, I
were
went
able to
say
do
a
it.
Prayer. Yeah, I went to say a prayer at 6:00 on Tuesday night, and the prayer was essentially that, Lord, I believe that you wanted me to run, and that's why I did this. But so many people have treated me so horribly, and I've been so ostracized, and it's going to be an embarrassing night with 5%. I just asked one thing: allow me to continue to be able to provide for my family.
Yeah.
And I absolutely thought for sure I'd get about 5% or less. And like you said, we wound up winning Lake County. We won McHenry County. We won DeKalb County. We came in second in Kendall, and we came in fourth in Kane.
Yeah.
And so, it was just, it was all God. It was 100%. You don't believe. Here's the crazy thing. A lot of these establishment people, they're so mad that I won. And the hardness of their hearts is they can't see that, essentially it was a miracle.
It was beyond a miracle. It was like the David and Goliath story. The stones you picked up, took down the person that they all thought should have won, and he did that. I want to say something that I think speaks to your character and integrity. I was talking with John Novarini, and he thinks the world of you,
Great
by the
guy.
way. And he told me a story. He told me a story. He said you said that if he won, if you stayed off the ballot, you would be with him. It just speaks to who you are as a person, and I think people really don't understand the big heart that's Mark Curran. I got a chance to meet you when you were running for U.S. Senate as well, and I gotta say, man, you really are one of the good ones. And I'm hoping and praying. I'm gonna do everything I can to make sure Mark Curran sits on the Illinois
Thanks,
Supreme
John.
Court.
It's
And
a Republican map.
It
It's
is.
a Republican map, John.
It is. It really is. So hold the line. We're talking with Mark Curran, former sheriff of Lake County, former prosecutor who's now running for the Illinois Supreme Court. I'm your host, John Anthony, live in studio with the troublemaker himself, Verlon Galloway. Before the break, we were speaking with candidate for the Illinois Supreme Court second, Mark Curran, former Lake County sheriff, an all-around good guy.
How you doing, Mr. Curran? Well, after
Doing great, Mr. Kellaway. I'm looking at you on on my streaming, and you got a purple. Is it a purple or a shade of blue?
Yeah, shade of blue. I'm still in my job uniform. I had to work all last night. But after that introduction that John gave you, I really don't need to ask you too many questions. And then the question that I want to ask you, John pretty much answered half of it. But
So I'm good.
after we think alike sometimes, but after hearing your name, I knew who you was. I mean, God had a lot to do with you winning, but you have name recognition over the field. So my question to you was, who did you beat to become the Republican nominee?
Okay, so there were three candidates. Dan Shane's a judge from Lake County, John Novarini, a judge from Kane County, and Susan Hutchinson, who's an appellate court justice from McHenry County.
Oh, that's cool. See, I knew Novarini. I really like him. But see, soon as John said your name, I said, oh, he's famous. So you got it, man. Name recognition goes a long way.
You something else, Philon.
Yeah.
But Mark, when you look at what's happened in our state, almost everything dies at the Illinois Supreme Court, and a lot of it is because there's a lot of judicial activism on the court. Why is that a problem, and how does that affect the everyday person who really doesn't pay attention much to politics? And what will you do to change that?
Right. So, I believe, the backdrop of what I believe is based in natural law. And I'm, as far as interpreting the Constitution, I'd be a strict constructionist, meaning that I'm not going to add to it. And ultimately, the problem with what you're talking about in terms of judicial activism is that people didn't, they vote for the state rep or the state senator. That's their job, is to legislate. It's not for the judiciary to legislate. And when we've had a Democrat majority on the Supreme Court for all these years, you're going to get legislation from the bench, and that's what happened both in the state of Illinois and nationally with the U.S. Supreme Court, which had liberal majorities.
Yeah.
What pressing issue do you think is most threatening to the Illinois Constitution? Well, you going into this office, what would you, I don't want to say push back against, but strictly reading the Illinois Constitution, would you smite down if it came your way from a leftist?
Uh-oh.
Right. So there's a caveat with regards to what you're able to say as a judicial candidate. You can't say how you would rule.
Right.
So I can't say how I would rule on any potential legislation. What I see as the biggest threat, I think, in going forward is that conscience protection is basically going by the wayside. And, you look at a lot of it in terms of just the LGBTQIA agenda and what have you. And there's a lot of people that don't have a problem, with, people can live their own lives and what have you. But there should be conscience protection, and we shouldn't be forced to choose to make a living or to follow our faith. And that's, what I think is people feel that that's imminent in this country, that people of faith are going to have to choose one or the other. They can follow their faith or they can make a living, but they can't do both.
I love you already.
Oh, God. The check's in the mail.
Check's in the mail.
You better give to him then.
I love you guys. You're awesome for what you do. Great show.
But Sheriff, now, I don't think a lot of people, and it's a shame that a lot of people don't understand this term that I'm going to bring up, due process. How important is it to fight for due process? I don't care what it is. When you look back at how one person literally controlled this entire state with no pushback from anybody, really, until Darren Bailey stood up and said enough is enough. How important is due process? And can you explain it in a layman's term of just how important it is for people to really understand due process for their lives, especially as it comes to government?
Right. So in the 5th and 14th Amendment to the United States Constitution, and it's been adopted in the Illinois Constitution as well, you have due process of law. And what the word due process means is fundamental fairness. And you're entitled to both fairness procedurally and substantively. So procedurally, that would mean that you're given notice as to what's going to happen, and then you'll be able to exert your rights to protect them, and that's life, liberty, property. And so when you take away, what's been taken away in Illinois, certainly liberty, by telling people that they can't make a living and all the rest, and then not giving them procedural due process where you've given them notice and a hearing in advance of trying to do this and what have you. You've relied on, emergency powers forever, which is not their intent. And then, once again, I mean, the way that it was exercised there wasn't really anything in the way of substantive due process either. You're told to shut down and lose your business and then potentially lose your family's nest egg and everything else without any real due process at all.
Yeah. And Mark, I want to do two things for you. First thing I want to know, how can people join the campaign if they're looking they want to say, hey, look, we got to win this Supreme Court seat. I want to help Mark Curran. I want to help him financially. I want to help him with my time, my heart, and my treasure.
Yeah, thanks, John. So we have two URLs that both direct you to the same website, and it's We Know Mark, and the other one is Curran for Judge, both.com. And so, if they can help us, that's great. I'm not allowed to ask for money personally,
I know.
So I won't be doing that, but that's one of the rules for judicial candidates. But, another way they can help us, I mean, John, I mean, this was Providence that I'm here talking to you right now.
Yes.
So we're not going to underestimate the power of prayer. And, the reality is, when I ran for U.S. Senate, I went through Cook County, and I won 88 out of 102 counties, and I beat Dick Durbin in the county that he lives in. But, the chances of somebody winning when they go through Cook County are not very good.
Right.
And this race that we're running in right now, I'm running in 5 counties, and Lake County is the only one of the 5 that had more Democrat than Republican primary ballot voters on June 28th. The other 4 are strong counties, and they're going to be strong on November 8th. I beat Dick Durbin in McHenry County.
Wow.
Kane, Kendall, and DeKalb are going to go Republican in November, and so we have such a good chance to win, and like you said, it's the difference is night and day.
Yeah, and now, Mark, I want to give you a minute to talk to the voters, and I want you to express why Mark Curran should be the next Illinois Supreme Court justice from the second. Go.
Thanks, John. So I think that, basically I relate to the everyday guy. As you said, I've always been pro-life, but at one time I was elected as a Democrat. And I think that people understand that I feel their pain, not to steal from Bill Clinton, but that's totally true. I had blue-collar roots. And understanding the Constitution, believing in it, believing that the rights belong to the people, that's the kind of backdrop that I'm going to bring to the bench. And I think that people can take great comfort in the fact that Illinois and it becoming once again a destination that people will want to come to because it'll be the land of the free if we have judges that believe in liberty and intend to rule with liberty.
Oh, amen. Mark Curran, my friend, my brother, former Lake County Sheriff, now candidate to be the Illinois Supreme Court justice from the second. Thanks so much for joining Black and Right.
Got it, brother. Love you, man.
Love you too, brother. You take care. Mark Curran, candidate for the Illinois Supreme Court second. It's very important that we win the Supreme Court. And I hate to say it this way, even if we don't win any other seats, we got to take back the Supreme Court. You want to change Illinois? That's where it begins. What?
I'll be proud to have him on the Supreme Court. Hopefully he brings some sanity back to Illinois.
Yeah.